But I trust in the justice system, and I know justice will be served for my sister and for Dominic.
The jurors are not going to have a hard time at all coming back with guilty, because like my co-panelists show and his podcast says, Profiling Evil, this is evil in the worst way ever possible. And the witness on the stand is saying she can't see her sister past 27 because her sister's life stopped at 27. His life needs to stop right now for what he did. Period.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from Profiling Evil. I'm in San Diego, but this morning I joined Ted Rollins on Court TV, accompanied by New York attorney Maria Pereira. We were talking about the RonaldBurgos-Aviles case. This is the murder trial that went on down in Laredo, Texas. You'll remember this case. He's a Border Patrol agent, and he's now convicted of murdering his former lover and the child that came from that union. This was a 27-year-old woman and an 18-month-old baby, and he brutally stabbed them and sliced them to death. Now convicted, we're in the sentencing phase. I hope you'll take a minute, hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell so that you're getting all of our communications here on Profiling Evil, and I hope that you'll share us with your friends. Now listen, I just wanted to take a minute and share some of the things we talked about on Court TV today. Primarily, we listened to the testimony of Grizelda's sister. Now, Grizelda is the mother of this child who was brutally slain by her lover, now convicted, Burgos-Aviles. Now, listen, the thing that really captivated me in her trial was in her testimony was the pain that she's feeling as she relives the incident of finding out on that day. She actually drove to the scene and parked next to her vehicle in that park down in Laredo, trying to find her sister. It would take a day before police released the information that little Dominic had been murdered as well. Now, Ted asked my comments in a number of areas, and I think what I'm going to do is just go into Ted's comment, his question, and my response. And I'm going to include on this particular one a few things from Maria, because she was really exercised today, and frankly, rightly so. But I want to add some caution as we proceed, that there's a little bit of a question out there about why on earth this guy's family would support him through the criminal trial. You know, I think you might be interested in my comments there, but keep in mind that his family still has a son that's on trial and now facing the death penalty. You know, you can't choose your family members. You can choose a lot of things. And so I'm not real critical of the fact that they're there supporting him. They may agree 100% with you and me that justice has to be served, and equally important, that there has to be consequences for decisions, especially decisions like murder. Let's watch.
Attorneys talking to the judge. Let's talk about what we've been watching. With us today, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Maria Pereira. She's in New York, and retired police commander and host of Profiling Evil, Mike King. He's in Dallas, Texas. Here, Mike, where are you? You're not in Dallas?
No, San Diego.
Look
Ted,
at you.
Always loved Dallas. I love the barbecue.
Yeah. The view. Let's start with this. Is such a, you could feel the pain in her testimony. She lost her sister and her little nephew. Mike, how impactful is this type of testimony for the state as they try to establish what was taken from this family?
I think the prosecution's doing a masterful job with their timing and the fact of bringing this sister on to talk about this little tyke and his mother. This is really going to help the jury move from the facts of the case and personalize this. We're seeing her smile when she talks about memories of seeing this child born. We're seeing her talk and exhibit emotion about the impact that this has had on her life. And hopefully the jury's seeing also the defendant in this case, now convicted, and the emotion that he's going through. Now he's a pretty flat face when you watch him, but we're now starting to see him kind of bounce in his chair, and that started to kind of progress as we've gone through this part of the testimony in the case. So, Ted, my thought is they're doing a great job of the timing and the personalization of this little tyke and his mom.
With us, Marie, you clearly want this jury to come back with a recommendation for death. What if you were representing him, though? How would you attempt the opposite? How would you attempt to try to get jurors to spare his life?
I would focus on the fact that he has no prior criminal history. That's about it. And that maybe he's a family man, although it's hard to understand how he's a father to another child, but he could lift up the T-shirt of this little baby, cover his eyes, and stab him through the heart. I find it hard to understand, but let me put my defense hat on, as hard as it is with this scenario. He's never been arrested before. This is an anomaly for him. He does have children who he has to care for. He does have family, and there is a possibility of rehabilitation for him. And he could be a person who gets to jail and does something good with his life. And just one mistake shouldn't give a person death. That being in jail for the rest, in prison, I'm sorry, for the rest of his life should be enough. And it may be even worse for him to have to live with that every day, knowing what he did. Don't kill him, because being in jail may be enough. That's about it. And I just have to give up my job as a defense attorney if I had to be forced to defend someone like him.
Mike King, his family is in the courtroom, and they have been throughout this trial. How important is that to show to the jury that he does have people that love him and that they are cheering for the jury to not do this? Because I know people have grand thoughts about the death penalty, and they say, oh, absolutely. But when you're selected for a jury, and now it is you and your 11 other jurors, and you have to make this decision, it is a heavy decision. That's just the bottom line. How important is his family sitting there in court every day?
I think it's very important for the defense to try to humanize him. I mean, we've been humanizing the victims in this case now. But, I've talked to a lot of family members who have had children, and man, talk about a horror for a parent, children who have committed homicide or violent assaults. And they still have to support their family. They still have to support their loved one. But I don't know that it necessarily means that they don't agree, too, that this individual shouldn't have to face justice, shouldn't have to face penalty, shouldn't have to pay a price. And yet they still need to support him because that's their child or their loved one. I am so torn with this idea that his children have to reflect on this the rest of their lives, that they came from a father who committed a crime like this, or that his wife. And we have to be really sympathetic, I believe, to family members. You can choose a lot of things in life, but you can't choose family.
Absolutely. Let's listen to a bit of the defense opening during this penalty phase.
This man is going to die in prison no matter what happens next. He is walking into prison as a dead man. Now, I am not a politician, and in a second, you're going to see our slideshow, which is not as sophisticated as the state's, and I apologize. I hope that you don't hold it against Mr. Burgos-Aviles. So what does it mean that Mr. Burgos-Aviles is going to die in prison? Right? The only question now is, right, whether it's on Texas time or whether it's on God's time. All right? And I don't mean to be too religious or spiritual. Some of you may not be spiritual or religious, but our suggestion to you is you follow the facts and the law and the evidence, and the facts and the law and the evidence, which is what these prosecutors told you to do when each and every one of you were selected.
Mike, interesting the way he was able to say, bring up God, bring up religion, and then double dip on it and say, all right, I don't mean to bring up God, but I'm doing it again by saying God, God. Because let's face it, as we heard Angelica on the stand just a few minutes ago, she's very Catholic. This is an area of the country that is very Catholic. And if you hook a juror that is religious and whose religion dictates that the death penalty is not the way to go, and that indeed God should be making that decision, that might be a good strategy. Your overall thoughts?
Well, I love the one comment. Is this going to be Texas time or God's time? You know what? We create laws and we have these borders that when they're crossed, we have to have justice. We have to have consequence for decisions that are made. And the family deserves, if the death penalty is something that's supported in that state, they deserve the right, if they've chosen to do so, to go forward with this request. And I'll tell you what, I'm with Maria. I think Marie's right on with this idea that, you know what, there are lots of arguments either way, but if there's a case that fits the death penalty, this one certainly does. This is not just a guy who got angry and reacted and the devil made him do it. This is something that was pre-planned. He chose the location, he chose the circumstance, and then he tried to impact the investigation and influence what the result was on it. And how do you turn your eye on the fact that this was a defenseless mother and an 18-month-old-ish child?
Yeah, stabbing a little boy. It's hard to get your head around that, and for such selfish reasons, just because he doesn't want to pay child support or have the world know that he was cheating on his wife. It's a despicable, despicable crime.
3. Happy birthday to you. Woo! Happy birthday to you. Woo! Happy birthday, dear Dominic. Happy birthday to you. Woo! Hey! Come here, puppy. Dominic. Daddy, come on. Dominic, come on, Dick. Good job. Bye.
My life will forever be incomplete. That hole in my heart will always be there. But knowing that I have done my very best to try to bring them justice, will have to serve as peace in this lifetime for me, because that is all I can do.
The overall thoughts, Mike, as we watch this state of Texas put on this case in the penalty phase, they seem to be all in, and it's gripping.
Boy, if there are any empaths on this jury, they're going to have a really difficult time not feeling a lot of empathy. So dark. But I'll tell you what, Ed, I've been really focused on watching this convicted killer. I don't know if you caught it, sitting there at times muttering to himself. I wish there was some way to figure out what he was saying and great lip readers out there. I know that there is a lot of hope right now, maybe some reality. Disgusting case is coming. I think he's going to get the death penalty, and
your audio was going out a little, Mike, but we did pick up on, and I did notice the muttering. We were talking about it actually, saying maybe he's saying Hail Marys to himself because he's over there. You can see his lips moving a little bit. Marie, overall thoughts here?
I think the prosecution is doing an excellent job at highlighting all the aggravating factors through the video of the little boy, through the testimony of his mom and his grandmother, to show that, you know what, this has lasting impact on people who are alive now. What he did, the murder, the stabbing, the violation of trust, it still will live end those people for the rest of their lives. The damage is irreparable. So therefore, he should not be allowed to live another day. And they're arguing it very, very well. They're hitting on all the points to touch people on the jury who are mothers, who are fathers, who are maybe even grandparents, to understand this life can never be returned, these lives. And they're also showing premeditation, focusing on that injection point and how that little child suffered even before the stabbing. His own father tried to poison him chemically. He went from walking and being happy to being carried around because he couldn't walk because of what that man did. So it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't like an emotional thing that happened at the park and he lost it. He planned the murders, the premeditation, and all of that goes toward the aggravating factors which make him 100% eligible for that death penalty.
Put him on the stand or not, Mike? There's got to be a lot of hatred for him. I don't know if he can say anything.
I would think that the defense attorneys would be standing on his chest trying to keep him from testifying. I don't think he's going to do himself any favors in this one. And frankly, I think the defense is kind of showing their hand a little bit when they said we're not going to cross-examine. They're almost apologetic that they're having to defend this case. And like Marie said, God bless defense attorneys who have to do a job, but oh, how difficult that would be at times.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that little take and a little discussion. I'm going to be really interested in whether you think this guy should get the death penalty or whether you think he ought to be given life without parole. A chance every single morning for the next 50 years to wake up and think about the reason he's sitting behind bars. May not be enough for some of you. The state of Texas is saying they want to go for the death penalty. They want this guy executed. Now, there's no question it costs more money than not executing him. There's no question that some people are arguing against this. But the family must be in agreement for the prosecution to go forward. So let's see what happens on this one. I hope you'll put your comments down below and weigh in on this really heavy-duty case. You know, following Grizelda's sister, her mother testified. And then, of course, we got some pretty disgusting discussion surrounding text messages that were going on. The defense is going to have their chance to one more time try to convince the jury that God ought to make the decision when this guy dies rather than the state of Texas. I'm going to be looking for your comments and how you feel about this one. And I want to thank you for supporting Profiling Evil. You know, you can find Profiling Evil on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And if you like podcasts, make sure you're checking out Profiling Evil podcasts on your favorite podcast platform. I think you'd enjoy doing so, and you're going to join a bunch of people that are now listening to us while they're driving down the road. So keep us subscribed in YouTube and consider subscribing with us on your favorite podcast platform. You can find Profiling Evil at profilingevil.com, and there you can check out our books, our merchandise, and more about our organization. I want to thank all of you for your support of Profiling Evil and invite you that if you'd like, feel free to donate. You can do so through PayPal or you can do so on this YouTube link. Now listen, you can get all the information down below and check out our sponsors while you're there. Thanks so much for your support. We'll see you soon at the next crime scene.